It sounds like me. Moves like me. But it's not me. Imagine getting a voicemail in the middle of the night. From yourself. Your own voice tells you, don't open the door. Sounds like a joke until the clock strikes 2:47 a.m. and someone knocks. And that's only the beginning. What's coming for you doesn't live in mirrors or phones. It lives inside you. And every time you look at it, it looks right back. I've never been the kind of person who scares easily. I'm 33, an accountant, and I live alone in a quiet suburb of Arizona. My life runs on routine. Wake up, drink coffee, work with spreadsheets, eat dinner, sleep. Day in, day out. Peaceful. Predictable. Lonely. Then, one night, everything changed. It happened at exactly 2:47 a.m. I was already in bed when my phone buzzed once on the nightstand. No text. No missed call. Just a voicemail notification. I reached for it, half asleep, and looked at the screen. It was from my own number. I froze for a second. Then, curious and still a little dazed, I tapped play. Static. Heavy breathing. Then my own voice, slightly distorted, shaky, said, "Don't open the door." 7 seconds. That was it. But I sat up in bed like someone had poured ice water down my spine. I hadn't called myself. I hadn't recorded anything. How could I even leave a voicemail for myself? I checked the call log. Nothing. No missed calls. No outgoing calls. Just that one strange message, and yet it was definitely my voice. I recognized the little crack I get when I'm nervous, the way I pause to breathe before saying something serious. It was me. I told myself maybe it was a prank. My brother Matt was always messing with spoofing apps and weird tech. But something about the tone in that voice. It made me get up and triple-check the locks on my door before going back to bed. The next night, at exactly 2:47 a.m., someone knocked on the door, 3 slow, heavy knocks. I shot upright in bed. My heart was thudding in my chest. I didn't move. Just listened. 3 more knocks. Louder this time. Slower. I crept to the door, barely breathing, and looked through the peephole. Nothing. No one there, just the hallway. Still. Empty. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, another voicemail. Same number. My number. Same voice, mine, but this time full of panic. You opened it. I told you not to, and you did. God help us both. But I didn't open the door. I swear I didn't. I only looked through the peephole. What if that was enough? After that night, I couldn't calm down. I kept trying to convince myself it was just a coincidence. Maybe someone really was playing a prank. Maybe the knocking had nothing to do with the message, but deep down, I already knew it wasn't random. I barely slept. My mind kept spinning. Who was leaving me these messages? Why did it sound exactly like me? And worst of all, how did it know what would happen? The next night, I left all the lights on. I sat on the couch gripping a steak knife like it could actually protect me. I stared at the door. Waiting. Dreading, at exactly 2:46 a.m. The pressure in the room shifted. I don't know how else to describe it. The air felt heavier, thicker, like the silence was pressing down on me. Then my phone buzzed again. Voicemail. Same number, my own, hand shaking. I pressed play, my voice again. But now it sounded torn up, hoarse, like I'd been screaming, "It knows about you now." I tried to stop it. I don't know if you can still change anything. But if you're hearing this, don't look in mirrors. Don't listen if it speaks. Even if it sounds like me. It's not me anymore. I stood there frozen, the phone still in my hand, breath held tight in my throat. There was a large mirror in my bathroom. Another above the kitchen sink. Even the microwave door reflected light just enough to see my own face. I rushed to the bathroom, grabbed a towel, and draped it over the glass. Then I covered the kitchen mirror with tape and paper. I turned off the TV. I even slammed my laptop shut. Its black screen suddenly felt threatening and still. When I walked past the dark screen of the TV, I could have sworn, for just a second, my reflection smiled a moment longer than I did. But I didn't open the door. I swear I didn't. I only looked through the peephole. What if that was enough? After that night, I couldn't calm down. I kept trying to convince myself it was just a coincidence. Maybe someone really was playing a prank. Maybe the knocking had nothing to do with the message, but deep down, I already knew it wasn't random. I barely slept. My mind kept spinning. Who was leaving me these messages? Why did it sound exactly like me? And worst of all, how did it know what would happen the next night? I left all the lights on. I sat on the couch gripping a steak knife like it could actually protect me. I stared at the door. Waiting. Dreading, at exactly 2:46 a.m. The pressure in the room shifted. I don't know how else to describe it. The air felt heavier, thicker, like the silence was pressing down on me. Then my phone buzzed again. Voicemail. Same number, my own, hand shaking. I pressed play, my voice again. But now it sounded torn up, hoarse, like I'd been screaming, "It knows about you now." I tried to stop it. I don't know if you can still change anything. But if you're hearing this, don't look in mirrors. Don't listen if it speaks. Even if it sounds like me. It's not me anymore. I stood there frozen, the phone still in my hand, breath held tight in my throat. There was a large mirror in my bathroom. Another above the kitchen sink. Even the microwave door reflected light just enough to see my own face. I rushed to the bathroom, grabbed a towel, and draped it over the glass. Then I covered the kitchen mirror with tape and paper. I turned off the TV. I even slammed my laptop shut. Its black screen suddenly felt threatening and still. When I walked past the dark screen of the TV, I could have sworn, for just a second, my reflection smiled a moment longer than I did. I slammed the door shut without saying a word. I didn't care how rude it looked. My heart was pounding. My skin felt wrong, like I wasn't in it properly. I backed away from the door and went straight to the bathroom. I had covered the mirror, but I tore the towel down. I needed to see. I needed to be sure. My reflection stared back at me, normal at first. Then I saw it, a delay, half a second, maybe less, but unmistakable. I blinked. It blinked late. I tilted my head. It copied me like it had to think about it first. I stepped back. My legs were shaking. Something was mimicking me from the other side of the glass. I knew it. It wasn't me anymore. Not entirely. That night, I left the apartment for the first time in days. I took the stairs. Didn't look at anyone. Drove for hours. I didn't have a plan, just escape. I ended up in an old roadside motel 2 towns away. Paid cash. Room 11. No Wi-Fi. The walls were stained, and the lights flickered, but I felt safer there than I had in days. I turned off all reflective surfaces, TV, phone, anything that could show a face, but at 2:47 a.m., the room phone rang. I stared at it, frozen. No one had that number. I hadn't even given it to the front desk. The ringing stopped after the third buzz. I held my breath, praying that would be it. Then the voicemail tone beeped. Yes. A voicemail. On the motel phone, I picked up the receiver, hand trembling, and pressed play. My voice whispered, "You brought it with you." I didn't sleep after that. I sat in the corner of the motel room, eyes wide, every light turned on, watching the shadows stretch and shift across the stained wallpaper. The silence wasn't really silent. I kept hearing faint breathing from nowhere. The air vent, maybe. Or the closet. Or maybe not even from inside the room at all. By morning, I looked like a corpse. Pale, red-eyed, twitchy. I splashed water on my face in the bathroom sink and stared at the faucet instead of the mirror above it. That's when I noticed something strange. My lips were moving, I wasn't speaking. I was silent. But in the faucet's warped metal reflection, my mouth was moving on its own, forming words I didn't say. I screamed and backed away, knocking over the waste basket. I grabbed my bag, left everything else, and ran. Got back in the car and drove until I ran out of gas in the middle of nowhere. I abandoned the car on the side of the highway. I didn't care anymore. I walked for hours down back roads, through fields and trees, looking for anywhere that felt untouched. Untainted. Eventually, I found an abandoned cabin, half collapsed, roof rotting, nature crawling through the floorboards. Perfect. I stayed there that night. No power. No phone. No screens. No reflections, just me and the dark, and for the first time in weeks, I almost felt safe, until I woke up at 2:47 a.m. There was no phone. But I still heard it, a voicemail, playing in the air itself, my voice. Right next to my ear, it whispered, "It's not in the glass anymore." I didn't move for almost an hour. After hearing that voice whisper beside my ear, my own voice, I just sat there, curled up on the cabin floor, staring into the blackness. "It's not in the glass anymore." That phrase repeated in my head over and over. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't want to know. But part of me already understood. Whatever this thing was, it no longer needed a screen. A mirror. A reflection. It had found a way in. It was inside the world now. I spent the rest of the night clutching a rusted crowbar I found in the corner, jumping at every creak of the wind through the broken roof. I tried not to blink too long. I started talking to myself, anything to drown out the silence. To keep it from whispering back. When morning came, the sun didn't feel real. It was grey, cold, thin like a memory of sunlight. I stepped outside to clear my head. That's when I saw the footprints, not mine. Bare. Long-toed. Like someone had walked around the cabin during the night. In circles. No leading prints. No destination, just circling. I went back inside and barricaded the door with rotting chairs and debris. I was shaking so bad I could barely breathe. Later that day, I found a phone buried under a loose floorboard. Not mine. An old, cracked Nokia, must have been there for years. But as soon as I picked it up, the screen lit. One new voicemail, no number. No menu. Just to play. I pressed it, my voice again. Slower now. Weaker. Almost like it was dying. "You stopped listening." It doesn't like that. It wants your attention. I threw the phone. It hit the wall and broke into pieces, but the message kept playing, from the air, from inside my head. "You're not alone," it said, and for the first time, I didn't feel afraid, I felt watched. I didn't leave the cabin for 3 days. I ate what I could find, cans long expired, rainwater from a rusted pot. I barely slept. When I did, I dreamed of things I don't have words for. Not monsters. Not ghosts. Just distortions. People with my face, mouthing words I'd never said. Versions of me that moved wrong. Smiled too much. Watched from behind trees. On the third night, the air shifted again, like it always did. Right before 2:47, I checked every wall, every corner. No devices. No light. But I could feel something waking up around me. Like the cabin itself was inhaling. Then the whispers started, Dozens of them, layered over each other, all me, different versions of me. One sobbing. One laughing. One screaming so loud it rattled in my chest, I slammed my hands over my ears. It didn't help, they weren't in the room, they were inside my head. Why didn't you listen? Why did you open it? It's inside us now. And then, a voice that wasn't mine, something deeper. Older, you were always going to bring me through. I blacked out. When I woke, it was morning. Light filtered through the cracks in the ceiling like nothing had happened. Except the furniture had moved. My bag was on the opposite side of the room. And someone, or something, had written a message on the floor in charcoal, "Do not return." My car was gone. I hadn't driven it here. But somehow I still expected it to be nearby. There were no roads anymore, just trees. Miles of them. Thick and too quiet, I started walking. I didn't know where I was going. I just walked, desperate to find people. To find a voice that didn't sound like mine, I reached a small diner by dusk. It looked normal. Almost too normal. But I was starving. Weak. I stepped inside. The waitress behind the counter looked up and smiled. Her face was mine. I didn't speak. I couldn't. The woman behind the diner counter smiled at me with my face, not similar, not close. Identical. Same scar above the right eyebrow, same slightly crooked front tooth. Her eyes even twitched the same way mine do when I'm nervous. I backed away slowly, but she didn't move. She just kept smiling like she was waiting for me to remember something. "You're early," she finally said. Her voice wasn't mine, not exactly. It was softer, slower, like someone trying to imitate me in a dream. "I don't know you," I said. She tilted her head. "Not yet." I turned and ran. Out the door. Across the gravel parking lot. Into the woods behind the diner, not even thinking where I was going. Branches cut my arms. Mud sucked at my shoes. I just kept running until I couldn't breathe. Then I saw another cabin, not the same one. But familiar. I walked in and stopped dead in my tracks. Everything inside was mine. My bag. My broken phone. The tape I'd used to cover the mirrors. Even the writing on the floor, "Do not return." I had already been here, or maybe I'd never left. I stumbled to the window and looked out. But the woods weren't there anymore. It was the diner. I looked back, no cabin. I was standing in the middle of the diner again, in front of that same woman, only now there were 3 of her. All with my face. All watching me. One of them spoke, "You can't run from something that's you." My knees gave out. The world was folding in. I didn't know what was real anymore. What time it was. If time even mattered, one of the reflections stepped forward and whispered, "You've been listening to voicemails. But have you ever wondered? Who's been listening to you?" I don't know how long I was there. The diner. The cabin. The forest. They kept blending into each other like a broken slideshow, scenes switching without warning. 1 second I was in a chair, the next standing in a hallway I didn't recognize, then waking up back on the cabin floor with blood on my hands and no memory of how it got there. It was all wrong. Time. Space. Me. Sometimes I'd hear a voicemail without a phone. Sometimes I'd see my face in a window that didn't have glass. And sometimes, God help me, I'd feel my own hand grab my shoulder from behind. I stopped reacting, I stopped screaming, there was no one left to hear it anyway. And then, the night before last, if time still meant anything, I heard something new. Not my voice, not a voice, a sound. Something. Breathing. Wet and massive. Like something too big to fit in a room was sitting just behind the walls, listening to every thought I had. I said out loud, "What do you want?" And it answered, not in words, but in understanding. It didn't want to kill me, it wanted my voice. My thoughts. My memories. My identity. The voicemails weren't warnings, they were cracks, each one was a way for it to leak through. To echo. To infect my reality. It wasn't mimicking me, it was replacing me every time I listened. It learned every time I responded. It grew stronger, and now I can feel it inside me, not metaphorically. Literally. Breathing behind my eyes. Finishing my thoughts before I do. I speak and hear myself twice, once in my own throat, and again, just a moment later, in my mind, a perfect imitation, but not quite human. Tonight is 2:47 again, and I know the next voicemail won't be a warning, it will be the last thing I ever say. I sit in the dark. No mirrors. No screens, but it's too late, it's already inside me. I think something, and it says it before I do. My hand writes without asking me. Over and over, I am already you. There's no phone anymore, but I still hear it, every night at 2:47. The final voicemail won't warn me, it'll just say, "You can rest now, I'll take it from here." And no one will even know I'm gone.